Caitlin Fitzsimmons, and I recently made a film called Anorexia Nervosa, which is a documentary that explores anorexia nervosa through both the male and female perspective. This film was made for my final year at university along with Rebecca Connor and Ciara McLarnon, and our initial aim with the film was to create something that explored the reality of living with a mental illness, and so I started looking for contributors. We found Chloe, who is a big advocate for mental health awareness, along with eating disorders in specific because of her own experience. And once she agreed to get on board, we decided to look for someone with the male point of view, and that kind of led us down the route of a sole focus on anorexia nervosa. Obviously the topic is something that's quite sensitive and quite tough for people, so we wanted to do a lot of research in order to do the topic justice and to treat it respectfully and honestly. So I read a lot of books and a lot of government documents about statistics, as well as watching some documentaries to really kind of get a perspective from all different angles, but mainly I wanted to gain my awareness from what Chloe and James, our other contributor, told me about their experience. I wanted to learn about it mainly from them because that's what the documentary is setting out to do. And that's where the big challenges with the project came in as well, that I had Chloe and James who were amazingly sharing these intimate details about things that they've gone through, things that they were difficult to talk about, and that they were happy to do it on camera, and so that I felt a great debt to them, and I wanted to make something that they would be proud of and that they would be proud to have their name attached to. But I think that together we've managed to make something that is informative and respectful, and that was our main intention as soon as we set out to get started. This was the first time that I've directed a project, and the first time that I've directed something that has such a personal connection and that really deals with intimate details of people's lives. So it was something that I'm quite new to, but I think that I've done a good job, and through the project it's helped me see that filmmaking is something that I want to pursue, whether or not it's in cinematography or in directing. That's something that I'll find out through more projects. But yeah, this project was it was very challenging, but it was rewarding, incredibly rewarding to be a part of and to make, and so that I hope people get something from it and that they walk away with a better understanding. And it's called Anorexia Nervosa.
So I remember when I was about 15 or 16, I was at like a perfectly normal weight and everything, but I always just felt that I just looked far too overweight, and I just didn't feel good about myself at all, and I always just wanted to look different. I just wanted to look slimmer. I just wanted to sort of just fit in more. I always just felt like I just stood out, and I always just felt like I was just too fat and everything, and I thought that if I lost weight, then I would just feel so much happier and all my problems would go away. So I started eating less, and I thought that the less I ate, the better I would have felt about myself, whenever I started to lose weight. But that definitely was not the case, and I remember I just started restricting and eating less, and this went on for a few months, and I sort of didn't notice anything happening. I just sort of thought it was normal, and this is just what a diet was, just eating less. And it came up to about maybe Christmas time, and my relationship with food was just dreadful, and I was just hardly eating. I had just restricted my calories so much, and I remember Christmas, it was just so scary, having to be just surrounded by food, because it had just become such an anxious thing. And then that went on to about January, and I guess January was the month when everyone starts their diets and stuff, and I just sort of thought by eating less and continuing to restrict what I was eating, I was just doing what everyone else was doing. There was no problem with that, and I didn't realise that it wasn't eating disorder. I just thought, no, it's fine, everyone else is going on diets, I'll just do the same. I was still eating less and less, and everyone was saying oh, you look great, you look so good, and I just thought, okay, then by losing weight, like I'll feel better, but I never did feel better. And I guess that brings in when I started realizing that this was a problem, but I didn't want to open up to anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I decided that I needed to seek help. Like I remember I was just so tired all the time. I couldn't concentrate on anything, and I just had really isolated myself from everyone, and I didn't want to like talk about it. I didn't want to admit that I was struggling or admit that I did have like a problem or what I was going through. But I think once I realized that there was so much more to life than this, and this wasn't like healthy, this had spiraled from so much more than just healthy eating, which is what I thought it was. And I think that was sort of the turning point when I realised, right, this is completely wrong, like this should not be happening. And I went down to my parents and I talked to them. I told them absolutely everything, and I just assumed, because of like the stigma and just my lack of knowledge about it, I thought that they would have just thought I was overreacting, and they wouldn't have cared, and they would have just thought I was being dramatic or just being like vain or selfish. But that wasn't the case at all. Like once I did open up and once I chose to just realise that what I was doing was wrong, I realised that the people around me really cared and that they just wanted like the best for me and everything. And I think that was like the turning point from when I realised that what I was doing was completely wrong and I wanted to recover from this. I think that the attitudes in Northern Ireland are changing so much for the better. Like a few years ago, I just felt like there was such a lack of awareness, which added to the stigma of eating disorders, which really discouraged people to talk about what they were going through. But I think the attitudes are changing for the better, because we're seeing like mental health charities and eating disorder charities and support groups sharing things online and in person as well. Like I saw a post, it was like a billboard from the Lawrence Trust, and they were talking about eating disorders from a male perspective and like statistics of males that struggle with eating disorders and struggle with disordered relationships with food. And I think that has just really improved throughout the last couple of years, because a few years ago I didn't see that anywhere. I didn't see like posters about it or anything. I just felt like there was such a lack of awareness, and particularly to males with eating disorders. So the fact that that's changed and those attitudes have changed in Northern Ireland, I know for me personally make me feel more comfortable opening up and sharing my story and talking to people, and I'm sure other people would feel the same by these attitudes changing.
So for me it began roughly around the exam time, and I was feeling really very stressed about my exams. I had never really been under pressure like that before, and I didn't know how to handle stress. On top of being stressed and overwhelmed, I've always had insecurities about my appearance and how I looked, particularly at that time. So while I was on study leave, I was thinking I need to change something about my life to put it back in order a bit more. And I thought one way I can do that is by changing my appearance up a bit and making me look more like someone you'd see in a magazine. So I thought I'd lose a bit of weight, I'd try to tone up my blubbery bits, and that I'd just try improve my health in general by eating better and exercising more. At the start, no one seemed to notice there was anything wrong with me. I think there's a bit of a taboo when talking about anorexia, and people seem to assume that someone with anorexia eats absolutely nothing and should look like a complete skeleton. However, that's not the case. What anorexia nervosa is it's, yes, weight loss, but the main pathological process is dysfunctional thinking in regards to food. Eventually my weight had got so low that one night as I was sitting revising in my room, I looked down to my ankles to find they had completely swollen up. So I hobbled down to my parents and was just like, what the hell is wrong with my ankles? And I could see by their facial expressions that they were really quite concerned. So the next morning I was rushed to the GP, I got my bloods taken and they were red flag referred to the labs. And the blood test came back to show that my iron levels were really, really low, and also my protein levels were really low. So this began a number of physical investigations to see what on earth was wrong with me. I was up in hospital getting colonoscopies and various other tests. I got CT scans, and the whole time I did genuinely believe that there was obviously something organic that was causing the problem, and definitely not my restricted eating. That continued for a period of a couple of months. But my friends and family did become a little bit more suspicious as each test came back saying it was negative, there wasn't actually anything wrong with my physiology. And eventually one night I was sitting with my boyfriend and his mum, who happens to be a mental health nurse, and they managed to get me to admit for the first time ever that I was struggling with my eating, and that simple act meant that I'd sort of broken a barrier, and a mental barrier, and was able to seek further help. So from then on, help began to float my way, and I got the right services and the right medical care that I needed. Eventually, people began to notice maybe Chloe is getting a bit too thin, and my parents and my friends were encouraging me to maybe eat a bit more and to not lose any more weight. But ultimately, this just led to a new side of the illness, which was secrecy and manipulation. Now all my dieting had to be in secret and no one could know about it. So I began hiding food. At one particularly bad stage, I was winging my breakfast pancakes out my bedroom window. I was just doing desperate attempts to be secret about my restriction. I found that my relationships with my friends and family were really badly affected when I was ill. I just lost all care or interest in anyone other than myself. I started believing that everyone around me was evil and they wanted to make me fat. So this caused me to withdraw from my friends and family, and I ended up spending most of my time on my own and becoming a real introvert. I had a very positive experience of therapy, and a CBT in particular. I was blessed to get a really good therapist who just really got me, and was very, very helpful to chat to. After I was at the Children's Psychiatric Hospital, I got moved on to the adult one because I turned 18, and that's where the majority of my actual therapy took place. For me, what the therapy looked like was essentially just teaching me how to manage stress in a healthy way and not let it manifest as restrictive control mechanisms or unhealthy behaviours. All in all, I'm confident that I'll never become anorexic again. A life of restriction is no life at all. It's a really dark and depressing place where one just obsesses over themselves and how they appear, and we weren't made for that. We were made to flourish and thrive. So if that's you, and if you maybe relate to anything I said or know of someone, I really encourage you to get help, to talk to someone, to whether that be a GP or a friend or a family member, and just open up about how you're thinking, because as soon as you start getting help, life will become so much better.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.